My parents are visiting, so I'm gonna contemplate the degree to which people are locked into reality tunnels or paradigms. My mom's 70, my dad's 80. The thing that I am most fascinated with is they're semi-awake in politics, right? But I'm noticing we're all old enough that there's not really any conflict, or I don't really want them to change, but these topics come up and they're kind of interesting. And they cannot comprehend or play with or chew on the most basic irrefutable information. So we'll talk about stuff in Christianity, or we'll talk about stuff in politics or physics, and there's an impossibility of understanding the significance or the implications of whatever those baseline pieces of reality. So when people get locked into stuff, they really can't come out of it, and they can't see it, and the effect of it is, it's just fascinating. This is the stuff people fight over, and they kind of kill each other over. And you'll see that once people have this paradigmatic thing and they're operating from ego, there's no way to make it simple. There's no way to make that case for things in that way that they're finally going to understand, right? When we try and make other people understand things, whatever the hot button issue is, race, nationality, sexuality, things like this, we get locked into these ways of looking at things. If you are operating from ego, right? And when people say ego, it's self-centered or whatever, it really is a mental activity. If you're relying on your idea of yourself to navigate the world, and the key sign of relying on the idea of yourself to navigate the world is that you lack grace. And that grace is not just conversationally, but it's in how you move across the room. It's in how you pick up objects. It's in the listening that you do moment to moment that informs your behavior, your thought patterns, your movement patterns. And it's all of it. Everyone has the same amount of grace. It's real. And so you'll find that people basically stay within their lane. If you're moving with grace, you might only be able to walk, but if you're able to do anything, you do it gracefully. And if you can't do it gracefully, you don't do it. So that might be humbly moving across the floor, and that's within your movement pattern. Somebody with better listening skill, more grace, might be able to gracefully flip across the floor or spin or twirl, but anybody can move gracefully. And it's the same thing with speech, the ability to speak to such a degree that it's channeled and powerful. You can always wait and only speak when that alignment is there. And so maybe you won't speak very much. But somebody with grace is not operating egoically. They're operating on that level of flow state for everything. And so everything they do has that taste of artistry in it, what people call beauty, when you make it super duper obvious or you do something elaborate with it. If you make a noise with it, if you sing a song with it, right? So the people that are not operating from ego have that. And the people that are operating from ego lack grace. And when you lack grace, you're not moving with any amount of choice or any amount of freedom. So you don't have the freedom to like choose the correct belief. You don't get to choose what makes sense. You only get to enact like the pattern of the idea that is removing you from grace. So whatever is like pulling you out of grace, it might be the desire to show off or the desire to be right or the desire to whatever. You have some sort of pattern that's going, and that pattern is motivating you to move without grace, like when you exercise, when you talk, when you move through the world. And so the signs of that is like injuries from exercise, injuries from normal movement, normal behavioral patterns cause psychological harm, right? Running causes knee pain. You're doing your activity and you're getting hurt. That's the main indication that you're operating from ego, and you're operating. If you see that anywhere in your life, there's a disassociation from grace or a disassociation from listening, and then that is what causes the inability to orient or to change the mind towards what is obviously truth, to deal with or integrate the obvious truth. And when you're around anybody who cannot integrate the obvious truth, you're lacking grace in that area. And the ability to think and move and to perceive grace in those moments is what provides you and other people the ability to change their mind. If somebody is not able to reorient their mind around an obvious truth, it's because they're enslaved to one of these meta patterns. And these patterns do things like create the internet, like or the all of the media and the art and everything reflects these patterns that are in the head, right? And so when somebody's operating from ego, they're operating from those patterns. They're operating from a distributed control network. And when people are in that pattern, people are stuck to it. I don't think you can take somebody out of that pattern. I don't know how much. Giving somebody grace is like flooding their world with water. If you know how to swim, it's complete freedom. But if you don't know how to swim, the truth operates like a flood. And so there's actually like a mechanical physiological stuckness or a realness to ideological patterns. Like if you're depending on ego, it's a way of, it's like using the mind to get around rather than using your being, your water, right? You could control the body with the brain and the muscles and all that, or you can control the body with the water. And if you're controlling it with the brain, you're basically just like one voice in an infinity of programs that are larger and more important and more in control than you are. So once you get into those, it becomes an impossibility of changing out of that ideology. And so as far as I can tell, that's the screaming at each other over religion, over politics, or whatever, or feel that feeling of not being able to integrate the most basic truths about reality. And it drives everybody insane. And it's because of different ego programming. If either person is not operating from ego, then there's no ability to conflict with somebody operating from grace without seeming insane, I guess. I mean, people do. Obviously, people do. They don't. Right. That's how deep the ego programming goes. Is that like what I'm saying right now? If people really ever, there's periods of history where this has happened. It happens all the time, and it's greatly frowned upon. By anybody running from ego programming, right? And so that ego programming might look like radically opposite, different ends of the spectrum. Like a Protestant Christian or a Satanist is both ego programming. Neither one of those beliefs are maintainable from a standpoint of being aware of grace. They're both dependent on ignoring the reality of what is the grace for the idea, and then that causes Cuckooville, they call it.